Welcome. We've put together this deep dive especially for you today.
That's right. We're looking at some really quite profound thoughts, reflections, really.
All drawn from excerpts of a piece called Unhappiness, Desire, and the Search for Meaning.
And this piece itself was inspired by Mary Oliver's collection Devotions.
Yeah.
Beautiful stuff.
It really is. And the source material we're exploring, it uses things like poetry, fiction, the humanities.
This weighs in,
Yeah.
windows into these deep personal feelings and stories.
And it doesn't waste any time getting to the point. It puts this idea out there right away. If you're unhappy now, it's probably because of desire.
Wow. Okay. That's quite the opening statement. It really makes you stop and think, doesn't it?
It does. So our mission here is basically to unpack that idea and others the source brings up.
Following the thread, yeah.
Yeah.
And it uses some great metaphors.
Like the mind being a window.
Exactly. Is your window open, closed? What's its shape? I mean, how are you actually seeing things? It suggests our perception isn't just passive.
Right, it's filtered, shaped by our internal state, maybe by these desires it's talking about.
Yeah, exactly. And it gives concrete examples too, not just abstract ideas.
Which is helpful, like that ancient story, the poet, lay by.
Oh yeah, reaching for the moon's reflection in the water.
And drowning. The source uses that as this image of like desperate wanting. Maybe for something that isn't even real, an illusion.
It's a powerful, almost cautionary image,
Yeah.
It raises questions about what we grasped for. Are they sometimes just reflections?
Makes you wonder. And then there's that line the source uses, if you've lost it, it was an illusion. Oof.
That it's hard, doesn't it? It suggests maybe the intensity of wanting can, blind us. And if it disappears,
Maybe it was never truly substantial to begin with.
perhaps it forces you to look again at what you're chasing so hard.
Definitely. But then the source gives us this complete contrast. It pulls in Mary Oliver again.
Right, with the otter. From her poem, Almost a Conversation.
And the otter is presented as this entirely different way of existing.
Totally different. The source points out, no computer, no worrying if the river will last forever, no envy.
No wondering about what we humans worship.
Its only question, supposedly, is why we aren't jumping in the river too, because it's so lively and cool.
Such a stark difference. Our complicated, desire-filled lives versus just being, like the otter in the river.
And that contrast really sets up the main tension, I think. This link between unhappiness and desire on one hand.
And this other possibility, this otter-like state on the other, the human mind's window, maybe clouded by wanting versus the clear river.
Yeah, so the big question becomes, if desire is so tied up with unhappiness, what do we do with that? How do we navigate it?
Well, how does the source suggest we even understand it better?
It argues that this is where things like poetry, fiction, the humanities, they become really vital.
Because they give us a space.
A space for vulnerability,
Yeah.
for self-discovery. They help articulate feelings that are often, buried or hard to name.
So reading a poem might suddenly make you realize, oh, that's the feeling, that's the shape of my window.
Exactly. They give shape to the formless bits inside. Show us the outlines of our own desires sometimes.
Which maybe brings us back to Lee Bai. That story serves as a warning.
The very vivid one, chasing that reflection so desperately. Maybe we do that. And maybe it's only when it's gone that we see it was just...
Light on water, while the real moon is still up there.
Precisely. So that line, if you've lost it, it was an illusion, feels less like a judgment.
And more like describing a certain kind of desire, a desire for an illusion.
Right. And this whole discussion, it leads the source to a really crucial point about meaning.
Okay, what's that?
It's careful. It doesn't outright say life is meaningful. Full stop.
Okay.
But it says with real conviction, you must search for meaning.
That's a subtle but really powerful difference, isn't it? It's not about finding a neat answer.
But about the process. The search itself is the essential thing, especially when dealing with that unhappiness desire can bring.
So where might that search lead us, according to the source?
Well, one hint is back towards the otter. Not literally, obviously.
Right, we're not all going to start living in rivers.
No. But the idea of the otter, its simple presence.
The source actually says, I know I can't live like an otter, but I wish I could carry an otter's heart.
That's it. That yearning for just being in the moment, without all the baggage of wanting, comparing, worrying about the future.
But it sounds hard, not like flipping a switch.
Oh, definitely not. The source is clear. Getting an otter's heart in our world, that would take tremendous training, a kind of rewilding of ourselves.
Training, what does that involve?
Reconnecting with nature, maybe. learning to handle a different kind of silence, a loneliness that's not like city loneliness.
It sounds like stripping away layers, the habits of mind that keep us wanting and anxious. Less finding something new, more remembering something.
I think that's a good way to put it. A deliberate effort to tune into a different rhythm. Less striving, less comparing.
But okay, how do we actually do that? That tremendous training, carrying an otter's heart, while still, living our lives, paying bills, going to work.
And the source doesn't just leave it hanging there in the abstract. It brings it right down to earth. It says, of course, we each have our daily lives. We must live them with each gesture. And it finds room for gratitude within those gestures.
Gratitude. Like how?
The example is slicing a ripe melon. Just a simple act.
Here.
And the source asks, should we thank the melon? Thank the knife?
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a different way of looking at it. Being present and thankful for just the basic stuff.
Yeah, recognizing the whole chain of things that make even that simple act possible. It's about finding meaning right there, not just in achieving big desires.
So connection through simple interaction with the world around us.
Exactly. And it applies to the tough times too.
Oh.
It talks about getting through hardship with, effort and grace, and then finding gratitude.
Gratitude even then?
Even for the smallest gifts, it says, implying that maybe help or grace shows up in quiet ways, from unseen places sometimes, leading to thankfulness, humility.
So it's a deeper gratitude, not just for the easy, sunny stuff, but one that comes from getting through things, noticing small kindnesses.
Which maybe helps us rise above that unhappiness that's always focused on what's missing, on what we desire but don't have.
This whole thing really loops back powerfully to that first bold statement, doesn't it? Unhappiness and desire being linked.
Yeah. Whether it's the illusion Levi chased or just the constant hum of wanting that keeps us from that otter's peace.
And the way forward isn't easy. It's presented as this demanding search for meaning.
Requiring that tremendous training maybe to find presence and gratitude in just everyday life, the good and the difficult.
It definitely gives you a lot to chew on regarding your own desires, your own search for meaning.
For sure. And then the source ends with this really striking thought. A wish, almost.
What is it?
A wish for a life without pain.
Without pain.
Exactly. It says right away, I've never seen a world where no one is in pain. It acknowledges how absurd that sounds. Suffering is part of every life we know.
So it admits it's impossible?
It admits it seems impossible based on experience. Yet, it holds on to this tiny thread of hope. But I still believe maybe one day it will come.
Wow. That's quite something. To wish for that, knowing how unreal it seems, but still believing it could happen.
It's a real challenge to our basic assumptions about life, isn't it? About suffering, about possibility.
It really is a very provocative note to end on. Leaves you thinking about pain and hope and maybe the sheer persistence of belief. Something to carry with you for sure.